Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to a brand new video on my channel. So today's video is kind of special. I'm going to go over everything. I'm gonna explain everything. I'm gonna explain how you can find your own ALC settings if you choose to play ALCs. I'm going to explain what every single setting does in ALCs, and then I'm going to explain what default sensitivities you can use if you choose to use the default sensitivities. And then I'm also going to get into what ALC bleed over is and what kind of effect that they have on your default settings. And then at the end, I'm gonna go over some rules that you should always pay attention to if you choose your sensitivity. Alright, so let's just get right into it. So first, I'm gonna go over the ALCs and what each ALC setting does and how you can find your own ALC settings. And yeah guys, what I just want to say really quick is I am on console, so this of course counts for console players, and I'm playing on 120 FPS, so it should also count for PC roller players. And also if you're playing on 60 FPS and on an Xbox or a PS4 or something like that, it should also work. So it applies to pretty much every platform. Alright, so let's just get right into it. So first off, I'm gonna explain how you can find your own ALCs and what every ALC setting does. So there's one thing I want to tell you guys first, and that is the aim assist of the default sensitivities like 4:3 linear is really different to ALC's aim assist. So the rotational aim assist, which is the horizontal aim assist, works differently. What the difference is on the default sensitivities, like you notice that the pull is like stronger into the direction that your enemy is walking. However, there's a downside to the default settings as well. They have built-in ramp-up times and ramp-up delays, and you actually don't really need this. So there are probably some god tier ALCs that can actually beat 4:3 linear, but I just think nobody has found them yet. And I might be able to help you guys find them, because there's actually a fix to the lack of rotational aim assist on ALCs. So yeah, the fix that I was talking about is actually your outer threshold. Alright, so let's get right into the ALCs. So for the dead zone, this is where your stick starts registering. So if you just pull it really slightly and you're on like a 10% dead zone, nothing's going to move on your screen. However, if you turn this down to like 0%, your stick is gonna move by itself. That's just how dead zone works, and I actually recommend you playing on 0% dead zone because of the lack of rotational aim assist that ALC is providing. However, anything between 0 and 5 is pretty good. And by the way, having 0% dead zone in ALCs can actually also help you like even out the lack of rotational aim assist that ALC has in comparison to like the regular settings. Because if you're on 0% dead zone, your aim assist is going to like connect better because it's always like moving. Your stick is never like in a resting position, so your aim assist is always kind of activated. So yeah, anything between 0 and 5%. And then outer threshold is actually the same thing as dead zone, just for the outer circle on your stick. So let's say you bump it up like this. That would mean that you reach the maximum speed of your sensitivity already where the orange circle is, right here. And if you bump it all the way down, your maximum speed is actually just at the edge of your stick, pretty much. And this is actually the fix for your aim assist on ALCs. So if you want to play ALCs, I highly recommend you putting this to like 4 or 5%. You can even go to like 6%, but I recommend you playing between anything of 3% and 6%. And this is going to change how your sense feels, because when you reach the speeds quicker, like on the outer circle of your stick, it's going to help you track your enemies. So it's actually like evening out the lack of aim assist that you have with ALCs. So the next thing is yaw and pitch speed. This is pretty much self-explanatory. You can pretty much choose yourself what feels comfortable. I always recommend having like a yaw speed between like 250 and 300. For me personally, this is the best. So I'm just gonna keep it on like 250. And then my pitch speed, I always keep this between 180 and like 220. Me personally, I like it more if they're not the same speed, but pitch speed being a little bit slower. Yeah, because then my like horizontal tracking is going to feel better and more stable. And then turning extra yaw. I highly recommend you using this, because this can also make your aim assist feel like it's stronger. When I have 250 and 250 yaw speed, this adds up to each other to 500. However, as soon as you lock onto a target, it's going to switch down to only the 250 of your yaw speed. So this can actually make your aim assist feel pretty strong, and it can make you move around really freely, and this is something that you can of course use. But yeah, me personally, I recommend you keeping this between 0 and 150, because me personally, I don't like it if the SENS is like way higher when I look around and then it's just like slowing down extremely on a target. This just makes me like kind of inconsistent. So I like to keep it at like 150. And then the next thing is turning extra pitch. This is something that I usually don't use, because your like vertical speeds are like quick enough for the most things already if you're on like 200 or something. So you don't really need this. It feels more consistent and stable if turning extra pitch is on 0. And then turning ramp up time and delay. This is where ALC beats 4:3 linear actually. So you want to turn these both to 0, because this is both just something that you don't really need, to be honest. The only thing that you can try here is putting the ramp up time to something like 15%. That's just going to make your SENS feel a little bit more controllable and less twitchy. You can use this, but you don't have to. You can also just put it to 0. But if you have turning extra yaw on, I highly recommend you trying something between like 10 and 20%. This is actually gonna help you with your extra yaw, because as soon as you look away from a target, you would speed up instantly with your extra yaw, and this can actually like make it like speed up a little bit more slower and controllable. So yeah, the next thing is ADS yaw speed. So I highly recommend you trying something between 120 and 140. I don't really like 110. This is actually what free ADS is. Like the default free ADS is 110. But in ALCs, because of the lack of rotational aim assist and the lack of pull, I like to bump it up to like 120, 130, 140. Me personally, I stick with 130 most of the time. Then ADS pitch speed, I also keep this lower than yaw speed, the same as with these. So I usually play like 100 to 110. This is something that I highly recommend, 130, 100. This is really good with ALCs. And then the next things here is also the same thing. I don't really like extra pitch here, so I turn this down to 0. You could technically keep it like this. These two with ADS are actually not even that bad. But me personally, I like to turn everything to 0 here. And this actually does the same thing. It just makes your like ramp up time slower as soon as you look away from a target. And this just makes it more delayed, like the delay of the ramp up. So you don't really need the last setting. You can of course try something like 5 to 10% again here, but me personally, I like all three on 0 here. And then this, you can actually keep this on 30 if you want. However, 0 is also good. And then the next three, of course, always have target compensation on. This is your aim assist. Melee, of course, also. And then keep target compensation style on default, as this is going to give you 0.6 aim assist if you're on 60 FPS. And PC is 0.4 aim assist. However, if you play 120 FPS like me, you're going to have 0.4 aim assist always, even if you put it to default. So I just tried some things out and tweaked my ALC a little bit, and this is actually what I would be playing if I played ALCs. So you can try these out for yourself and just tweak them a little bit. But this is my recommendation of ALCs. They are really good, however I feel like 4-3 linear is still superior. But maybe you are the person that finds the god ALCs, so you can start off with these maybe. These are really good. Alright, so let's get into the default sensitivities. So there's actually 3 response curves here that you can use, however I only recommend 2 of them. So there's linear of course, and then high velocity is not good, fine aim is also not good, and then steady is the one response curve that some people still use, but I don't really recommend it. However, if you like it, you can still use it. And there's classic. So if you choose between classic or linear, there's a few things that you need to pay attention to. So you need to find out what kind of player you are. If you are a player that wants to be like cracked long range and you want to have really good recoil control, I actually recommend you playing classic. Classic is actually gonna make your recoil feel stronger because you have to pull down more on your stick. But if you actually master classic and you learned the recoil patterns, it can actually support you on long ranges. So when I used to play like arenas and stuff where mid-range to long range is really important, I was on classic. So yeah, if you want to be like a long range beamer, I highly recommend you playing classic. So if you want to be more of like a close range tracking warrior, I highly recommend you playing linear. And also always, by the way guys, always, no matter if you play classic, steady or linear, you want to always keep your look dead zone on none or small. You never want to go to large. Large is not good. So if you do not have a lot of stick drift, I highly recommend you playing no dead zone. It's the same thing with the ALCs that I told you about already. If you have no dead zone, your aim assist kind of stays enabled while you're not even really moving your stick, so it can help you with your tracking. So I recommend you playing on none, and if you have a lot of stick drift, just put it to small. And then there's of course the sensitivities here. So you can go to like 5-4, and that's actually the highest that I recommend you playing on the default sensitivities. I never recommend you going above 5 pretty much. 6 is like the highest possible sense that you can play on. Anything above 6 is not really viable. Of course there's some really cracked like weird sense players that can play like 7 or something, but it's just not worth it. Your aim is gonna be a lot better on like 5 to like 4. So 3 is also something that you can use, but I don't like it. It's just too slow for me. I can almost not turn around quickly enough with 3, so I like to keep it on 4. And then ADS, I recommend you playing on 3 always, because 3 is going to be fast enough for like close range tracking, and also like it's gonna make your aim more stable in like mid to far ranges. And 4 is something that you can also try out. It's really good for close range tracking, but your like mid to long range is gonna be a little bit harder because your sense is higher. Yeah. So me personally, I use 4-3 linear, no dead zone, which is probably the meta sense at the moment. But 5-4 or 5-3 is also something that you can try out. And now the per-optic sensitivities in the default sensitivities are something that I recommend you turning off. The reason for that is the ALC bleed over that I'm going to get into right after this. Is actually depending on whether you have this on or off. Your ALCs have a higher impact on your default sense if you have your per-optics off than if they're on. And also your aim assist is gonna feel more sticky if the per-optics are off. The reason for that is Apex's weird coding. And I have no idea what they did, but Apex's coding with like all the settings and sensitivities is actually pretty weird. So yeah, keep those off if you can. If you're used to like playing different per optics here, you can leave them on, it's not that bad, but I just recommend you playing with them off, and also I recommend you putting them all to default, so touchpad and then turn this to free, and then like all the others are in default. Yeah, so now I'm gonna get into ALC bleed over, kind of like the secret sauce and what it does and how you can use it. So if you have your per optics off here and you play for free or whatever default SENS, what many people don't know is that your ALCs actually have a pretty high impact on how your default SENS feels like. And this is because of Apex's weird coding. I have no idea why they implemented this and if it was on accident, but yeah, they have an effect. And also, of course, the ALC per optics also have an effect on your for free, but I actually recommend you turning these off. I never play 4-2 with ALC per optics or like 4-1 with ALC per optics because they can give you ADS bugs. And what this means is it sometimes just messes with your aim assist mid-fight and it just makes it feel really weird sometimes, and it can mess you up mid-fight, so I don't really recommend this. I usually try to like play on a SENS that makes me really consistent. So yeah. So what does ALC bleed over do? ALC bleed over changes how your aim assist window pretty much acts. It doesn't actually affect how fast your SENS is, but it more so affects your aim assist and your aim assist window. So imagine you're playing 4-3 linear, for example, with your per optics on and everything is normal. Then your aim assist window is pretty much like a circle around here, pretty much. And then if you turn these off and use ALC bleed over, what it does is it actually pulls your aim assist more to the middle of the enemy. And this can help you, especially if you're on a higher level, this can help you because you don't really have a problem getting on target. You more so have a problem on staying centered in the middle of the target. And this is what pro players sometimes, like the ones that know about this, they actually use this pretty well. Also, ALC bleed over doesn't only affect your aim assist's window, it also affects your slowdown. If you play, for example, default ALCs, which is also not bad, this makes your SENS feel like a little bit less slowdown. So you're gonna have like a more quicker and more responsive feel, and your aim assist is still going to be like in the middle. So you can either play default ALCs, or you can use default with the first 3 turned all the way down. This is what Designful uses, and this makes your like long range pretty consistent because it makes the slowdown, it doesn't necessarily make the slowdown like more slower, but it makes your aim assist window even smaller a little bit. And this is really good for mid to long range. And then what me personally, what I like the most is I turn them all to 0. This makes my aim feel really like consistent and not too quick, because I like a consistent SENS. And then I turn my response curve to 30. So this also makes the aim assist stay like in the middle of the target, and it makes your it makes it slow down a little bit more than like default or Designful's ALC. And the response curve that's on 30, it makes my aim like more controllable on long ranges. It makes it feel like I have less stick drift and more control. So the 30 response curve is really good, and also surprisingly it doesn't mess with my close range tracking. So yeah, that's pretty good. I recommend using my ALC bleed over. This is really good. And also this is not like particularly my ALC bleed over. I actually have this from my friend Keniru, or Blooming Flower. He used to be called Blooming Flower, and he gave me this. And before I was on this, I was playing default ALCs, and now I just stayed on this. This is really good. And also I like to turn my aim assist off in ALCs, and this does not actually remove your aim assist or anything like that. This just changes how your slowdown feels, and this in combination with the 30 response curve just feels really nice to me. But it does not actually remove any of your aim assist. So yeah, that's pretty much what every sensitivity and every setting in ALC does, and how you can find your sensitivity. So now I'm gonna quickly get into whether you should use a Kontrolfreek or not. I don't recommend playing any like Kontrolfreek or any like raised sticks. So if this is your default stick right here, this actually doesn't need a lot of time to like travel from like this to this. So if you just turn the stick to any direction, it's really quick, right? But if you have like a Kontrolfreek and it's going to look something like this, it actually needs a lot of time to go down on each side, right? And this makes your tracking less reactive. So I always recommend you playing without like a Kontrolfreek. The only thing that you can try is like any like small grip on top of your stick, just to make like your grip better, or if you just like the feel of it, this is good. But don't use a stick that's too high. And if you are already used to something like this, it's also fine. You can stay on it as long as you don't notice that if you notice that your tracking is like not reactive enough, or you can't really follow the targets, then I recommend you going to like a mid-rise stick, like something like this, or just going to a default stick. By the way guys, of course there's sensitivities that work really well with a Kontrolfreek, but I'm not really gonna get into that right now, because in my opinion playing without a Kontrolfreek is just the optimum. And of course you can stay on a Kontrolfreek if you're used to it. It can help you in some areas. I just think the positive aspects of playing without a Kontrolfreek just overweigh playing with a Kontrolfreek. So yeah, I'm not gonna get into any settings for Kontrolfreeks now. And by the way guys, I just use a default PS5 controller without anything on the sticks at the moment. But I did order some grips that I'm gonna try soon. But other than that, I don't play any like raised stick or anything. So yeah guys, that was it with today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. And if you have any more questions, just leave them down in the comments and I'm gonna try my best to answer all of your questions. And yeah, good luck on finding your own SENS. And I'm gonna tease something real quick. There's actually a new montage coming very soon, so stay tuned for that guys. See ya!